Welcome to the Goose One channel. In late 2020 and early 2021, the boomer shooter returned. If you're in any way invested in the indie gaming scene, you already know this. It might have been 2 years earlier when the big games in the subgenre at the time, like Ion Fury, A Medieval, and most notably Dusk, released, but it would take until the pandemic for this phenomenon, which I would personally ascribe to the release of Doom Eternal, to truly take a hold in the greater, scene mindset. And ever since, the genre has truly boomed in size. With hallmark releases like Turbo Overkill, Proteus, Doom Eternal, which in my view serves as something of a passing of the torch to the newer generation, and many others, it's become a real thing. Yet despite all those titles, I think the battle to win this race was already won many moons ago. Because in late 2020, one RC Hakita Patala would release the game that would become synonymous with the boomer shooter genre. ULTRAKILL. On September 17th of 2020, only a week or so after the initial early access release of ULTRAKILL, Ian Danskin of Innuendo Studios released a great video on FPS arsenals. Sidebar, I know he makes light of this in the video itself in a sense, but the principles of shooter arsenals he discusses in this video are so beholden to a very specific part and era of the FPS genre that I don't really think it's a framework that is very useful. It is somewhat useful for the point that I want to make today, though. It's also a very good video. I'm not calling the video itself bad. It's a really well-made video, and I love all of Ian's videos. It's just, I don't think it's an interesting framework, and I think it's an interesting challenge that he gave himself to do. I just don't think it really means that much. But that's like whatever. It's like if I'll release a debunk of his video in like 2027, and you can hold me to that. The main point of that video is that a good FPS arsenal is not made by having the most punchy sounds or the best visuals, although those things can certainly help, but about creating niches that fill up enough space for each situation to have a corresponding weapon, to paraphrase in a sense. And pretty much all the big boomer shooters do this well enough, and if they didn't, they wouldn't be very fun to play. That's like the main gist of the video. You need to watch it if you really want to get the point. But ULTRAKILL? ULTRAKILL takes it to the next level. In a standard boomer shooter like Dusk or Doom, the switching of weapons happens out of necessity. Maybe you run out of ammo for the machine gun, or that enemy over there is too far for your super shotgun to reach, and even then you tend to fall back onto your preferred weapon, sticking to it and only really switching out when required. The better games factor their other weapons into the gameplay loop better, but still, a lot of them fall into this loop. ULTRAKILL's gameplay loop is weapon switching. UK is often compared to character action games like Devil May Cry due to its style meter, and while this is true on the service level, the mere existence of this style meter forces the player to play the game like it is Devil May Cry. Switching weapons becomes essential to playing well and getting high scores. At a certain point, the player enters a flow state facilitated by the game's style meter, switching weapons and trying out wacky fun strategies with them in an attempt to keep that score high. Switching weapons is situational, sure, but it's also a way to take control of the flow of gameplay. Yet there's something deeper to what makes ULTRAKILL so special compared to its contemporaries. ULTRAKILL's way of storytelling and world building is something that really sets it apart from the competition. While stories are a part of many boomer shooters and obviously just games in general, in this sector of indie games that tend to be more focused on fun gameplay, they tend to be more of an afterthought than anything else. Severed Steel, Turbo Overkill, Ion Fury, these games use their stories to explain why you are where you are and why you're doing what you're doing without much beyond that. Even games like Doom 2016 and Eternal, which do have extensive stories and sort of lore, more so use these to create bridges between badass set pieces rather than to tell a story or create an interesting world. Which is fine! The focus of these games are their gameplay, and they don't need much more than the paltry story content they get. Focusing on trying to tell a story can even hinder the fun gameplay loop in some circumstances. I'm definitely not telling every boomer shooter that they need a novel's worth of plot. Yet Hakita doesn't seem satisfied with something like that. UK's way of building its world is incredibly inventive. Lightweight yet powerful, the way it delivers the intricacies of its world without the need for direct exposition, outside the post-Gabriel cutscenes, is super satisfying. we understand, even without reading the journal entries, without digging into the extensive lore that does exist for those that wish to know, what is going on. Bosses are more than just obstacles we have to push our way through. Foes like V2, Gabriel, even Minos to some extent explain their presence and significance within this world without too much exposition. And outside of that, they have so much personality. Gabriel obviously, but...
Machine, I will cut you down, break you apart, splay the gore of your profane form across the stars. I will grind you down until the very sparks cry for mercy. My hands shall relish ending you here and...
But also V2, who doesn't even say a word throughout the entire game. And this is simply another big part of ULTRAKILL's addictive nature. The way Hakita pulls you into his story, into his world, it's similar to a really good TV show. You just want to know more about this world, about the things happening within it. There are genuinely interesting mysteries being set up, genuinely cool concepts being dropped within this world, and none of it is done in a way that makes the lore and the story feel like a chore to keep up with. This also directly ties into the game's excellent presentation. There are no cutscenes in this game, which forces Hakita and Ko to approach story in a wholly different way than a game with cutscenes ever could. And thus, instead of taking after the character expo dump cutscenes from games like Ghost Runner, I still love you Ghost, or Turbo Overkill, we get story moments that fare closer to scenes from PSX-style indie horror games rather than action romps. And no level or part of the game portrays this idea better than Claire de Lune. Stepping into Claire de Lune, instead of being met with the burning ultra-violence that dominated the rest of this layer, we step into a cold, blue, almost gothic interior. The place is vacant of life, quiet and eerie. Quickly we make our way through the central door, and find 3 blue skull pedestals. So standing there you think, okay, I get it, we gotta get those 3 blue skulls, put them on the pedestals, yada yada yada. So we head out again, we search around for a bit because it's kind of a puzzle level, collect our first skull and ready to place it in its pedestal, we jump to the door and... what the fuck was that? This is only a singular bit of foreshadowing in this game, and it's pretty close to the actual thing it's foreshadowing, but this glimpse of V2 is played off so beautifully. The air, the atmosphere in this particular level is closer to an indie horror title you download off of itch.io some random night, rather than the action-packed romp through hell that ULTRAKILL has been up to this point. And I think that really encapsulates this game's strength, diversity and variety in experience. ULTRAKILL and Hakita's entire team by extension aren't satisfied with sitting on their laurels and delivering a simply fun action boomer shooter. No, outside of the insanely addicting gameplay loop they've created, they've experimented with presentation, with new gameplay elements, with deeper story elements. ULTRAKILL isn't satisfied with just okay. It's gotta go ULTRAKILL. And I think that's where I'm gonna end this video. If you haven't played it yet, play ULTRAKILL right now. Thank you for making it all the way to this outro. Check out my Patreon if you liked the video, all that other bullshit, and I'll see you guys in the next video?
I don't really care.